Welcome to another episode of The Profit Builder. I'm Vicki Suter with Suter Business Builders, and I'm so excited to have my guest Spencer Powell here with me today with Builder Funnel. And Spencer and I know each other because we are in a mastermind group together, a construction consultants mastermind group. And Spencer has deep experience and knowledge in the area of marketing specifically for the construction industry. So first of all, just welcome, Spencer. Thank you so much for being a guest today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Vicki. And yeah, I'm excited to chat a little bit here today.
Yeah, I really wanted you to come on and talk with people about this whole topic of marketing and what to focus on. And there's so many things that we hear out there about like what we should be doing and what contractors, should be focusing on. But then there's like so many options. Where do you start? So we'll get into that a little bit. And also people are super busy. So I want to talk about that. How do people maximize their time? But before we jump into my questions of you, would you just tell people a little bit about Builder Funnel, and then we'll kind of jump in.
Cool. Yeah, no, I'm excited. Those are good topics, especially right now. Everyone's extremely busy. But yeah, just a little bit of context and history. My family comes from a long line of builders, 4 generations out in the Seattle market, so 110 plus years. And I really came into the space not on the swinging the hammer side. So I think it was my great grandfather, then my grandfather, then my dad got involved, and his siblings, so sisters, brothers. It's gone through many iterations over the generations. But when I came into it, it was my uncles were running the business. They did a lot of spec building and built a lot of homes and communities out in the Seattle market. But then they were also kind of spinning up a remodeling division and handyman and that type of stuff. And we took their remodeling division from about 2 million to 10 million, kind of in those early days of figuring out blogging and SEO and social media, when it was like very early, I guess I would say, or pretty early. And then after we did that, we just said, I think we're onto something here. We could probably help a lot of other companies do this, and formed an agency around it. And those early years looked a little, it was a little muddy, a little messy. You're making lots of mistakes. But yeah, today, we're kind of spread all over the country, mostly a remote team, about 20-ish people, and just work with residential remodelers, custom builders, that sort of thing.
Awesome. I didn't realize quite how extensive your background was in construction itself before you started the agency. So that's really cool.
Yeah, that's a whole story, many stories if we go down that rabbit hole.
That's awesome. Well, so what's great about it though is that you have real life experience from the construction side of it as you started and working in this part of the business. And I think that's very helpful, right? You have a perspective and appreciation for both parts of it. So let's just jump in like my first question. Every construction is super busy these days, right? And you've been in the industry for a long time. I'm sure you've seen this too. And in the 30 years I've been working with contractors, the thing I see is when contractors get super busy, and volume is really high up, they stop marketing, and then things change in the economy as they always do, and then volume starts to drop, and then they start to go, oh my gosh, I haven't been marketing. And then people start marketing. And then they start getting more volume going up. So it's kind of like this. And the thing that, I've seen is that it's that old expression, when you're super busy, you need to be marketing. So from your perspective, how do contractors really figure out, like, of all the possible things I could do? And we're going to talk about like specifics in just a second in terms of where to focus. But to start with, what's your best advice for contractors about how to make sure to carve out some time? Like, how do they manage that whole, I've got so much work I've got to be doing, and yet I know I need to be marketing to make sure that I don't have that drop. What's your advice to people about how to manage that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'll maybe start with the framework there. And I like how you described it, because it can become a roller coaster. If you stop marketing, you're super busy, then you have not enough work. So then you jump on marketing, And like by then it's too late, right? Like you can't just snap your fingers and all of a sudden like marketing's working and it'll pull me out of the bottom of this roller coaster. And so kind of having that always be marketing mentality is the right approach. But more directly to your question around how do you carve out the time? I guess whenever I think about that question, whatever it is, whether it's time for marketing, time for working out, time for learning, it's a prioritization thing. And then it's either is it your time, is it your team's time, or is it dollars that equate to hiring somebody else and now it's their time, but you're paying for it. And so typically if you're really busy, then you're going to want to push that to your team's time, or you're going to want to hire somebody to help you execute it. When you're not as busy and you're maybe like more scared to shell out dollars or that sort of thing, then you'll put it on yourself and you'll say, I'll spend the time because I have the time. But that's really how I think about it. So if you're like, I can't dedicate time to this, then one, you've kind of made a statement already saying like, I can't, which is probably not true. You just haven't prioritized it among other things. But then two, it's okay, if that's really the direction you want to go, fine. You got to put it somewhere. So delegate it, whether it's a teammate or outsourced.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking, I suppose the step before that, which maybe is a perfect segue to my next question, but the first step before that is really determining what am I doing and what's my plan in terms of marketing, right? Like that, you're talking about like either A, carving out the time, B, delegating it to somebody on my team, C, outsourcing it to someone else. But before I can do any of those things, the first thing I have to do is determine what it is that I'm doing. What's my plan? So it's kind of like in a construction project, before you go do demolition or start to, try to figure out where you're going to put the new cabinets, you need to know what it is that you're building to. Like, what's my goal? Who's my target market? Who am I going after? What kind of jobs? And then what's my, like, so if that's like the blueprint, then the next piece is I need to build my budget, my schedule, right? So that's kind of like have a plan, know who you're going after, right? And then build your plan, and then C, execute your plan, right? So then there's there's all sorts of things that we can do in terms of marketing, business development. So can you just speak to for a second about how do you think is the best way for somebody to go about creating a plan for what they want to do in terms of marketing? And then can you talk about different marketing strategies and how to decide? And maybe there's a different direction this question should go, but I'm just thinking, you got it. Like, there's so many things that we hear about. We should SEO our website, we should do Facebook ads, we should be posting on social media, posting on Instagram, put photos on Instagram. I just had this conversation with a client last week, and this woman who's the marketing manager was like, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to do this. And I'm like, okay, but what's your goal in all of that? Like, I hear all those things, but are you really clear about what your plan is and what your strategy is? So maybe strategy, is that like maybe a good place to just start this conversation? Like, what's a way for people to think about their marketing strategy first and then determine what they should do? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head, because it's just like planning a project, right? Like if somebody's just like, I want to redo my kitchen, like, great, I'm just going to jump in and start tearing stuff out and putting stuff in. It's like, we all know that's not how it works. It's the same with marketing. You could say, I need some marketing. Great. Just like throw some Facebook ads, do some SEO, take some pictures. Like that's not the answer, right? Like some of those things might be a part of the answer, and some of them may not. And so, yeah, starting with the strategy is, okay, what's my goal? What's my destination? Where am I trying to get to? And then my marketing should facilitate, getting to that destination. So marketing is going to play a role in getting to that destination. It's either going to be building brand equity, it's going to be driving leads of certain opportunities, and that's going to obviously push into sales. And then you've got the rest of the business, operational delivery and that sort of thing that play a role in the goals too. But in the marketing context, I think when you're slower, your plan might look a little different, right? It's probably going to be more lead gen focused. Right now, when let's say you're backlogged for 9 months, like a lot of people are. You can already know what this year is going to look like generally. That's a great spot to be. So we might shift to a little more brand focus. Not that you're not trying to drive leads and opportunities, but you might put more investment into those things that are maybe showcasing the quality of your work and doing more like PR type stuff. Because branding, and this is a whole side topic, but branding basically is lead gen with a longer time horizon, because you're basically trying to get in front of people that you know will be future buyers, but they're not necessarily buyers today. And so what you're trying to do is actually build long-term opportunities into your future pipeline, which is probably what a lot of people want to do now. They want to kind of solidify their spot in the marketplace. So when things do drop, you've got that brand reputation, and then you can maybe shift towards lead gen, but you've also built a lot of equity during these times when things are busy. So I guess those are just two kind of sides of the coin of general strategy on how you might shift from slow to busy.
Awesome. So I just want to repeat what I think I just heard you say, and correct me if I kind of miss the mark here, but I appreciate that distinction you just made, which is one of them is lead gen, which is sort of a long game, right? And it's about building brand identity and getting your name out there and being in front of people when they're ready to make a buy decision. So building brand and name recognition so that people have a more of a, and these are my words, more know, like, and trust of you when they are ready to buy, as opposed to lead gen, which is I'm trying to make the phone ring this week, next week, the week after. That what you're saying is there's two different strategies of what you would do from a marketing perspective to do brand recognition versus lead gen being basically you're trying to get somebody to pick up a phone and call you now, right?
Exactly. And one thing to just build on that a little bit is a way to think about, like, where are these people in the buying funnel? So if you think about somebody that's at the bottom of the buying funnel, their timeline is I'm ready to make a decision within a short time frame, 0 to 30 days or something like that. Whereas somebody that's at the top of the funnel, they're thinking about that kitchen remodel, but they're just in the dreaming phase. Like, they're looking at design ideas and they're like, wouldn't it be nice if? Like, that's not the person you want to talk to right now because you're so stinking busy, but that could be an amazing customer 18 months from now when they're actually, so we still want to capture their attention and keep it and hold it for that 18 months so that we're building that future pipeline. So that's another way to think about, hitting that top of the funnel and not as focused on bottom of the funnel, or just more focus, not necessarily, saying it's 100% brand and 0% lead gen, but I think you know what I'm saying. It's kind of separating those two.
So that's a good segue to then the question is, so that when we talk about, all right, there's all these different things that we can do from a marketing perspective, like I was saying, like SEO on my website or social media or, Facebook ads or Instagram or postcards or door hangers or, there's lots of, emails, right? There's lots of different strategies. And if you were to take each of those, if you were to take brand identity, long game marketing strategy versus lead gen, short game strategy, can you talk about what do you think are the most considerations, the most important considerations in each of those areas that somebody wants to undertake? Like, what's a way for somebody to decide, hey, what should I be focusing on right now? And what
Yeah.
do you think are the most important first steps, like first most important things to focus on?
Yeah. I'll try to break it down in some generalities because obviously everyone's specific situation is going to have some variance to it, So let's kind of talk about the branding side. Let's say you're booked up with work for the rest of the year and you've got a nice backlog and everything. And you're saying, hey, I want to focus more on branding, kind of that side of the equation. I think the first few things that come to mind for me are always like, what are you doing at the hyper local level? So you're in a couple of neighborhoods and you really like those neighborhoods, like branded trucks, branded signs, like door hangers if you want, but like those things, I would say big, professional, sharp looking, clean, all of those things that you want, So I know my uncle would always he'd he'd make sure that all of his guys, like Sunday, they always washed their trucks and came in Monday with, they're all had just been washed and ready for the week, that sort of thing. And I think those are the types of things that, as you look at somebody in that neighborhood that maybe timing isn't right, that's okay, but they're always seeing the same clean looking trucks, the crew's professional, they see the signs in front of all these different projects going on in their neighborhood. That's the type of repetition that you're going to get with that audience that, hey, they're in this neighborhood. It's a more affluent neighborhood. I want to be working there, whatever it is. Okay, great. I'm going to get these touches throughout the next year, 2 years, 3 years. And those things I would be doing all the time. But if you're looking to cut more like direct lead gen opportunities, like your Google AdWords campaign, where you're driving towards people that are typing in kitchen remodel in Denver, like they're probably looking to get something done right now. And if you're like, I just can't handle that, then maybe like shave some of that budget that's more just direct advertising. And then back to the branding bucket, I would think a lot about the projects that you're taking photos of, like this is the time to invest in some video, get some nice video done, get some testimonials done with those clients. And then you can be sharing that content on social. Social is a great branding area, unless you're doing ads there. And unless you're spending like 3 hours a day participating in social media, it's usually not a lead gen channel, it's a branding channel. And one where you're going to get a lot of repetitions and you're going to stay in front of an audience for a while. So I would think about, those types of things for branding. And then lead gen tends to be more ads driven when you're thinking about, especially online, when you think about digital ads, you can target very specific, what we would call bottom of the funnel phrases, remodeling company in Denver. There's probably a reason they're trying to find a remodeling company, because they need to do a remodeling project. So maybe you're going to trim from that.
So you just said a lot, so thank you. So I'm going to see if I can back out of just a little bit, because part of what I heard you say is SEO is good for branding. SEO paid ads is good for driving leads, short-term leads versus long-term branding kind of stuff.
I'll pause you there, because SEO is in its own little bucket, I would say. And so if we want to like break that down a little bit, SEO is something that's really tough to turn off and on. So you're going to write content, you're going to optimize your website pages, you're going to be creating blogs. Those are all things that are going to contribute to like your website getting stronger and you ranking. And then when people do searches and they find you, they're just going to click. So let's say you're ranking number 1 for a certain term, kitchen remodeling services Denver, let's just say. So you're ranking number 1. Sitting here right now, when things are super hot, you're going to get more traffic because the demand is there. So you're ranking number 1, you're going to pull in all of these leads and all these inquiries. Back in 2000.
If you're paying for.
Not paying. No, you're just ranking organically, no paid ads. So if you've done a good job of ranking organically for that term, then you're going to capture a certain percentage of those searches, right? They're going to do a search, they're going to be the ads at the top, and then you're going to be the first organic search, and you'll steal a bunch of that share of search, basically. But if we rewind the clock during the Great Recession, when there was not a lot of demand, like you're still ranking number 1, but you're going to get less, right? Just because the overall demand is less.
Right.
So, and that's not something you can be like, oh, I'm number 1 now when it's really busy. I wish I was number 4, but then when it's slow, I want to be number 1 again. Like it doesn't work like that at all. And so SEO is something that, like, if you're winning and the market's hot, you're going to be winning big. And if you're winning and the market's slow, you're just going to be winning more than your competition. So it's my philosophy that you should always be driving your SEO towards the advantage, because that's something that you can't flip on and off like ads, where you can just say, great, spend $3,000 a month on ads, and then next month you're like, turn them off, if that makes sense.
Yeah. When it comes to like Google ads or, right.
Yeah, Facebook ads or Instagram ads, like anything where you're basically saying, I'm putting dollars in and I'm trading it for traffic.
Yeah.
That's what you can more turn off and on. But the organic ranking within the search engines is a long game.
So SEO is good either way.
Yes.
You want to be doing SEO, and if you're playing a long game, building name recognition, you don't want leads right away. You're not going to necessarily be paying for ads on Google or Facebook, but or maybe Yelp also.
Right. Yeah.
But,
Anything where you're paying to drive extra
but
things,
if you're
stuff that you can turn back on easily later. Yeah.
yeah, but if you're looking for generating, doing lead gen where you want to make the phone ring now, investing in ads in Google, Facebook, Yelp, good strategies. Okay.
You got it. And then I guess I'll just throw in one more thing while we're at it, is I would make the argument too. I know a big challenge right now is supply chain and labor and getting things done. But for many, many years, everyone I talked to always wanted to grow and double their business. It was, I want to go from 2 to 4 or 4 to 8 or whatever it was. Well, it's like, now you actually can. And so I guess I would really just caution people and say, maybe like, think about what you actually want, because right now is probably the best time to double your business. And I think what a lot of people are finding out is, oh, it's actually harder than I thought to compress the same amount of revenue into a 12-month span. Because that's what you have to do to grow. If you want to go from 2 to 4 million, you got to figure out, how do I do double the work in the same amount of time, which means hiring more people. And I know there's challenges around those things right now, so I'm not trying to just skirt over those, but I think that is something to think about. Do you prefer having a big backlog, or do you actually want to do more revenue? Those things factor into how you'll approach marketing.
Yeah, well, and I think this is an interesting time to build backlog when there's high demand, low supply, right? There's more demand for contractors out there than there are contractors to respond to the demand that's currently we're facing. And that in this type of market, it is a good time to build a solid backlog, and a backlog of work that you know that you can perform, that you can be profitable of, that that you've got the crew and the skill to be able to do. Yeah, it's a very good distinction. So let me ask this. So there's long game, building brand identity, building your future pipeline, short game, making the phone ring now, generating leads for work more presently. So when people are faced, in addition to the distinction you just made about SEO and then ads, in terms of just in terms of all the other possible things that people can be doing. So we kind of touched on SEO, a little bit on ads. Can you talk about all the other things, like what falls into each of those buckets, and how would you advise somebody to prioritize? Well, I guess I'm going to go back a step for a second, Spencer, because it's like, how do you help somebody determine? So they've determined they're trying to build long game, build name recognition, so on. So then how do you build a strategy for that? And then how do you build a strategy for the short game or lead gen?
Sure. Yeah. So I think I'm going to do some generalities so we can get into some specifics, and just put a little star by this and say, your situation could be different. You should analyze what's going on in your business. But yeah, let's say we just want to focus, got a good backlog. We want to build the pipeline for the future, focus on branding. So hit those, the signs and the local neighborhood stuff that you can do offline. Online, I would say, you want to keep the SEO piece going no matter what. So that'll be in both buckets. That's something you should always be building. So you're going to be blogging, and you're going to be making technical SEO updates to your site. In addition to that, social media is a great spot. So we kind of touched on that just a little bit earlier, but sharing all the great photos, great videos, active projects, sharing your culture, using that as even a way to attract talent. So not necessarily marketing for leads, but also for just your company. And that can be a really good channel there. And then the other piece really that we haven't talked about yet is email marketing. And so as you're building this list, go ahead.
Before you go to email marketing, can I just ask about social just for a second?
Sure.
Okay. So Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. How do you know which one of those to focus on?
Yeah. So I would say we'll start with the easy one, which is LinkedIn. LinkedIn, I feel is a great spot if you're trying to work on your B2B relationships. So that's going to be, subs, architect partners, other trade partners that you like, people, you're building that network. It can be also a place where you can run some targeted ads to maybe like if you are trying to attract architects and everything. And then there is a play there for that kind of like professional, right? The customer and building an audience there. However, I'd say like, and the company pages, I would say kind of they're garbage. Like build your personal brand on LinkedIn around that and try to network in with all the people in town that you already know. And then the content just needs to be contextualized a little bit different, knowing that that's like a business setting, business social network. And so it's just going to look a little different there. I think Instagram's
the more in the bucket of business development than it would marketing.
Yeah, I think that's a fair way to try to break it out. Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
No, good question. Instagram is kind of the no-brainer today. That's, I think, visually, it makes the most sense. That's where the audience is. That's where your I would say most people's target customers are. Facebook is, I think, becoming more of the mixed bag. Whereas a few years ago, we would have said Facebook first, add Instagram, start to play there. I think it's switching. And Facebook's now on this path where they're meta and they're going into the metaverse and they're trying to figure out all of that. They might be in a total pivot of their whole business model. So I think there's just a few more question marks there. It doesn't mean you shouldn't be there. And if you've built a presence there, like utilize that. But you might be Instagram first, Facebook second, if you're trying to prioritize. They're still both valid places to be playing.
Well, no, Instagram, Facebook. So you're saying Instagram first, Facebook second. Instagram is probably your better place. Business page, personal page. Which would you?
On Instagram, I would say business page, but personal page, I think you just have to make a decision as an owner, as a founder, that sort of thing. Do I want this to be my personal brand that's connected with my business and my family and all of that, and I'm integrating them? Or do I want to keep family separate and business separate? And honestly, like that's a very individual decision that I think a lot of people have to make today. But if you've made the decision to integrate them, I think the personal can be extremely, extremely powerful.
Right. Okay. So email, you were about to say email. So
cool. Email. Yeah. So let's just take the example of that dreamer again, somebody that's 18 months out from wanting to do their kitchen. What they're going to hit your site today, right? And they're going to hit a bunch of other sites. So we didn't talk a lot about lead conversion, but you should have stuff on your site that allows you to trade information. Hey, download our kitchen design guide. They put in a name and an email, and now they're on your list. So that's really where email enters the equation. Is you're building this database of dreamers and future buyers. They're not ready today. They're doing research, right? They're poking around. Email is going to be one of your best ways to stay in direct contact with that person over a 12, 18-month period, even just a couple of weeks or a few months, right? But if we're thinking about that future, then sending a monthly newsletter, I like those emails actually being more personal, like coming from the owner or from some, and looking like a one-to-one email. Design heavy ones are great too. You can show off your work, but it's more powerful if you actually start to build like a behind the scenes relationship, is kind of the way I describe it. They're getting to know you. They're getting to hopefully see you on video, see your projects, hear your tone, get to know your style, learn your core values, learn about your company. So then when they actually meet with you in a year, they feel like they're super comfortable with you because they've been absorbing all this. You don't know them at all, but they come in feeling really comfortable. And that is very undervalued and underrated.
Yeah, know, like, and trust, right? That's awesome.
Got it. Yeah.
Good point. Good point. Any, so like you said, a design guide, anything else that might be, like when I think about email marketing for contractors, I think like value add, right? Like email marketing for anybody, don't be hawking your wares all the time, right? Like people, like you got to be very generous in how you do that. And how you do outreach to people. So anything in particular in terms of a lead generation tool when somebody hits a site that you've seen works really well?
Cost guide. Yep.
Okay.
Everyone wants to know costs, and that by far and away is our #1 lead generator across all of our clients in all of our markets.
All right, cool. Now I know that NARI National produces every year average cost for remodeling guide. Is that the kind of thing? Like, I know that they have a PDF. Is that the kind of thing you see people sharing?
Ish. I feel like that's a little bit helpful, but somebody that is in a very specific city, like I'm here in Colorado Springs. So if I want to know what remodeling costs, I don't want to know regions. I want to know what it costs in my city. And so if you're a remodeler, a builder, whatever it is, you can say, this is the cost guide, the Colorado Springs remodeling cost guide. And then when they download that, you're going to be able to contextualize that, right? Like a kitchen is between 50K and 200K. Okay, well, hopefully you want to do projects between 50 and 200, and you're kind of talking about why it's at the low end, why it's at the high end. It's 50K if it's just kind of like pull and replace, and it's 200K if we're blowing out walls and doing all the stops. So yeah, go ahead.
It's something that the contractor themselves is generating.
Yeah, exactly. Because you want that, to your point about email, you want that to be super helpful and valuable. You don't want it to just be like, here's this generic, like average cost in the Northeast of a remodel is X. That's not actually that helpful to that person. It's moderately helpful. But if you can say, yeah, like in this city, this is generally what projects go for. Here's examples of different projects at the high end, the middle, and the low end of this range. Here are kind of the bullet points of what to expect in the different ranges. That's actually truly helpful. And now you're starting to be seen as that expert, trusted advisor guiding them through the process.
Awesome. Spencer, this has been great. So I'm going to recap some of what you'd said here.
Cool.
And then,
yeah, once you get me going, just watch out.
No, I think it's been super helpful. So part of where we started out is we were talking about like, so where does somebody focus? And you said, understand, are you playing long game, short game? My words. Long game is, if you have a really full backlog right now, you might be playing I'm building brand identity. I'm looking for projects to come to me a little bit later on. So I'm gonna focus more on being out there and being a name that people recognize, so that when they're ready to buy, they have some recognition of who we are. And that includes branding while you're on job sites, as well as SEO. And that if you're looking to do lead gen, short game, get the phone ringing quicker, still doing SEO. So SEO overall, big piece I heard you say is super important. And then generating more leads with that, social media, making sure that you're doing stuff on social media. If you're doing short game, particularly on social media, Instagram, #1 place when you're trying to do to connect with that homeowner buyer. LinkedIn maybe for B2B if you're trying to do business development, and that doing ads on Facebook or Yelp or anything like that is going to be good if you're trying to increase your short-term leads.
Only thing I would change there is social media can really be in both buckets. Like it can be like it's a branding play, but you can also do ads on those platforms. So, but yeah, otherwise,
email marketing keeps you connected, builds know, like, and trust, keeps your brand in front of people. And I love that, like, have some lead generation thing where people give you their name and email address, because now you have that opportunity to build that ongoing relationship. And every marketing person I talk to and have studied, and I spent a lot of time learning in this space, is that they say your email list is golden, right? That's
gold. Yep.
It's still, no matter what you do, it's the warmest lead that you'll have. So awesome.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yep.
This has been super helpful.
Thanks for having me.
That you have a tool to help people in terms of evaluating their website. So if you can tell people a little bit about that. And then if people want to learn more, I mean, you have a lot of amazing services that you offer people in terms of marketing and business development and helping people implement these kind of strategies that you've sort of touched on today. Can you tell us about both of those things? And yeah,
sure. Yeah, so it's the tool is called the Remodeling Website Grader. It's kind of a long URL, so maybe we can just link that up in the show notes. But it's
in the show notes, and I'll put it down here on the video too.
Okay, perfect. So we'll do that. And then Yeah, in terms of our services, really, we help people with the strategy piece, and then execution wise, we can help, or we can just give you the blueprint, so to speak. So we really want to help people figure out, like, where are you trying to go, and on what timeline, what's the destination, and let's back it up for a second and go, what are we really doing for marketing? What should we be doing for marketing based on current goals and objectives? So that way you actually go into, okay, I'm doing SEO, I'm doing ads, I'm doing all this stuff with the confidence that you've done the research, you've answered the right questions, and you've taken the time to really think that through. So that's where we start everybody now. It's got to start with strategy. It's just like, I think about design build, like you wouldn't just jump into a project without doing the proper planning because you want to get to the desired outcome. So same thing for us. And yeah, builderfunnel.com is the easiest way to get in touch with us there, and hit the contact page and fill out a form, and we'll book some time.
Awesome. Thank you, Spencer. Thank you. This has been super helpful. For all of you watching, listening, I hope that you'll go check out Spencer's free evaluation tool of your website. It is a very cool tool, and it'll really help you get launched in this whole way of thinking about, how do I really do this first step that Spencer just shared, which is, how do I start to consider the SEO elements of my website, or how well my website is working for me as a business. So if you have any thoughts or comments that you want to share below, please feel free to do so. Feel free to reach out to Spencer, and we'll see you next time on The Profit Builder.